that cannot be here tonight with us in person. So welcome to DA Portugal's annual general meeting, and we hold these once a year for the purposes of bringing our membership together to let folks know where we're at with our efforts and where we're at with um, particularly this year as we are kind of hurtling headlong into the November election season, which is really the most critical midterm elections that I've seen in my lifetime. While we're at it, we uh, want to plug votefromabroad.org as the best, fastest, and most effective way to register and to request your ballot and find information about returning your ballot. So if you haven't yet done that, we would really like to promote that you do that as soon as possible. Don't delay. Every delay. What you can expect tonight. First, you'll get some updates from me on stats. And let me move this. You'll get some updates from me on stats and goals and comparisons to get a sense of how we're doing as a country and how we stack up to the rest of the globe. Um, and we'll also talk a little bit about where we have gaps to fill. And then we'll hear from our newest executive committee member and our comms director, Melissa Winkler. Melissa will give us some insight into the communication strategy and the key messaging that we are going to start using going into November, and also how you can help. Next, we will have a keynote speaker who is Eileen Kiley, the Vice Chair of the Democratic Party of Oregon, and also Vice Chair of the Deschutes County Democrats in Deschutes County, Oregon, who'll talk to us about how they accomplished a really dramatic flip in a historically conservative district. Anybody from Oregon knows how conservative Deschutes County can be. Seats on the really powerful county commission that were considered locked down by Republican-backed candidates for many, many years were won by Democratic-backed candidates who now have a voting majority on Oregon's east of the Cascades district. So that's a very, very big deal. And Eileen will talk to us about that, and she'll tell us what that victory took and how we might use that information here. And finally, we'll hear from John Goodman, the hub leader in Braga, one of our newest hubs. John will tell us kind of how they got their local hub started, how they kickstarted it and got it going, and what they're doing to protect democracy from abroad. It's insight into the grassroots organizing of our hub system and what we're promoting going forward. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is DA Portugal by the numbers, membership. The stat changes daily. As of today, we're at 3,055 of an estimated 20 to 24,000 Americans who live in Portugal. That's an increase of 8%. We're trending on an 8% increase line with a goal of bumping that up to 9 or 10%. As you can see, there is quite a bit of
came an email from the registration.
Oh, okay. So let's wait.
Put in DA.
I'm going to ask everyone to please mute their microphone so that we can get through this quickly, and then you can take them off mute at the end, and we'll take questions at the end. So membership is increasing on a steady trajectory, and we are close to anticipating, we're on track for reaching the goal that we have set for ourselves at the beginning of this year. VA submissions is going quite well. We have 900 submissions so far in Portugal, which is 29.4% of the members of DA Portugal. Our goal is 35%. We are heading into come fall, things are going to heat up and they're going to heat up very quickly. So we are well within reach of achieving that goal. And we think we'll surpass it pretty easily. In 2022, the last midterm election, there were 400 submissions. So we're obviously significantly higher than that, but membership was significantly lower at that time. And that was 26% of members during that election had turned in their VFA, vote from abroad submissions requesting their ballot. So as you can see, we have already surpassed that. And the 2024 presidential election, it's not unusual for presidential elections to engage voters a lot more than midterm elections. It's always been kind of a chronic problem to get Democrats to anybody really, to voters in period, to pay attention in a non-presidential year, especially for voters who live abroad. That year in 2024, we had 1,685 VFA submissions, vote from abroad requests for ballots, and that was approximately 60% of members. So our hope is to fall kind of in between the 26 and 60%, and we really believe that the 35% goal is very doable, and we believe we'll surpass it. The hubs that we have put together this year, our goal was to increase the hubs. We started with one essentially active hub in Lisbon, and a active hub in Porto that's technically not a hub because they are a indivisible chapter. So they're, but we work with them often. Right now, we have 7 active hubs throughout the country with a goal of 8. The next one that we really would like to put some attention towards is more in the center of the country in Coimbra. It doesn't have a ton of Americans that live there, American voters that live there, but there are some, and we'd like to offer them community in the same way that we're establishing that you'll hear John explain as we get to the end of the program. And then the last piece I want to touch on real quickly is volunteers. The impressive piece that we have right now is here we are, not even in July, we have 22 certified voter assistance agents. Those are the people, those are the volunteers that will show up in the communities and be there to register people, will be there to get the ballots turned in with people and to make sure that people have the support that they need, as well as just establishing community of like-minded people. So those hubs are important, and the certified voter assistants are also quite important, and we've got a lot. I do want to actually touch on real quickly before we go any further the VFA submissions. We are right now at, I mentioned, 29.4% of our membership. I want to point out that while that doesn't sound great, we are early in the process. That number will definitely go up. And you can see compared to at the end of midterms last year, we are on a really great trajectory. I'll also say this in terms of global numbers. We are sitting a good 10 or 12 percentage points higher than the next closest country on the globe, in the globe. So we are doing quite well in terms of voters abroad. So whatever we're doing here has been pretty magical so far. And I think we can attribute a lot of that to the hard work of those voter assistants that we just talked about, and to the people in the hubs that are doing the work to gather communities together. And that said, I would say that where we need more help and we could use We'll have, hopefully Derek can pop this into the chat, but we have a volunteer forum, volunteer interest forum. We can use volunteers in more areas, and we can use volunteers that don't take on enormous lifts for the projects. Any volunteer is welcome. If you've got some expertise, it's welcome. If you can help us amplify our social media channels, it's welcome. If that's the only thing that you can do, we can use you. The more people that we have, the more things that we can get accomplished. Every one of us is a volunteer, and we're doing this in our quote unquote spare time, sometimes time that's not spare. And we're doing the best we can with what we have, but the more volunteers that we can get, the better off that we will be. So that's my pitch for volunteerism. And before we move on to the next speaker, who is Melissa, I want to really talk about this strategy of building a three-legged stool. And this is really how we want to go. This is the energy we want to bring into the midterms, and this is how we want to facilitate making sure that we are doing the most and the best that we possibly can. First is by fortifying our local communities to facilitate those ballot returns. So that's those voter assistants that are trained all over the country. We'll start having in-person events where those people will help you. This will be after the ballots drop in mid-September, to help you return those ballots. As you know, for folks who voted here in the past or voted abroad, know that there's 50 states and a handful of territories, and every one of them has their own set of rules. So it can be a complicated process, and it's not intuitive, we'll put it that way, but we're there to help. And then the second piece is we're just going to fight like hell. The administration is sinking. We see this every day. We see that they're having to resort to cheating in order to protect their power. And we're going to make sure that we are putting out messaging and doing everything that we can from our positions abroad to finish them off and make sure that we can take the House, potentially, hopefully take the Senate, and really start to see some changes that will enable us not to wake up to our morning gut punch every day. And then finally, and certainly not least, number three, all eyes on the South. With the Voting Rights Act really being gutted, this is our most reliable voting bloc. And we need to, as a country, get amplifying work. Our hope is to work with the Global Black Caucus and then also amplify influencers abroad and influencers in the United States, that will help us to get that content out there and really turn a light on for battles that are in the South where we really, really need to fight and fight hard. So with that said, I am going to pull up Melissa's presentation. And Melissa, our new communications director, is a communications professional who has worked with NGOs for ages, and that's what her background is. And so she brings a lot to the table. And we're really happy that she's on board in the executive committee as well. So, Melissa, you want to take it away?
Yeah, and first of all, can you hear me?
Yes, that looks like a lovely spot.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's really nice to be here with you and to meet most of you for the first time. I'm in Amsterdam at the moment, and I found a little community garden next to the building where I just attended a graduation ceremony, and it was the quietest place that I could find, but trains go by every few minutes. So I hope this is going to work. And if it doesn't, Lynette's going to take over. But I am something of a newbie to Democrats Abroad Portugal, having just joined last December. But as Lynette said, I have a lot of years of communications experience with humanitarian aid and global development groups. Two sectors, as we know, that have been completely gutted by the Trump administration. So the upside of that is that I have a lot of time on my hands to volunteer for good causes like Democrats Abroad. And Lynette asked me to spend a few minutes talking about our communication strategy between now and the midterms, with a focus on what we need to communicate, but a little bit on who we'd like to reach and how to reach them. The super short version is engaging our membership in Portugal and finding and connecting other Americans in Portugal and getting them all to take action in the form of registering to vote, casting ballots. And, you know, it's simple in theory, but I think, as we all know, that's not so simple in practice. People rarely act because they've received 10 emails asking them to do so. They're far more likely to act because a friend or someone inspiring or important to them has made a compelling case for action, and in such a way that it feels relevant and that it resonates. So that's what we're trying to do with our communications, and that's what we're hoping to or planning to ramp up in the months ahead. And we're focusing on a handful of key messages for Americans abroad that I'll share with you. Lynette already touched on a couple, and it's our hope that everyone here will help us spread the messages and amplify this important information. So first message, we are at a turning point for our democracy. Don't be a spectator. Election deniers and candidates who attack democratic institutions and traffic in racism and bigotry and division are running for office across the country, and many of them are winning primaries. So these rather disturbing individuals have a real chance of winning the midterms if Democrats don't show up. And they're counting on our apathy to win. So we have to prove them wrong. This is the moment to participate, to stand up for our values, to elect Democrats who share them, and to help shape the country's future. So that's a lot for the first theme and first message, but it's an important one. Second, in close races, overseas ballots can determine who wins and who loses. We make this point all the time, but it's an important one. So we're going to keep repeating it. Many Americans who live abroad vastly underestimate the power and importance of their vote. And many assume or hope that that someone else is going to carry the load. But we see time and time again that overseas votes can provide that critical margin of victory in tight races. So we have to keep fighting for that. Your voice and your vote do matter wherever you live and wherever you vote. The third one, Lynette already mentioned, if you vote in the South, do not sit this election out. Many of the biggest fights over voting rights and representation and democracy are playing out in the southern states. It's where some of the most important elections are going to be decided. So please don't leave those decisions to someone else. And the fourth key message is returning your ballot is what counts. So registering and requesting ballots, clearly a very important first step, but returning that ballot on time, or better yet, early, is ultimately what matters. And we have to be relentless about deadlines in the months to come in all of our communications. And we obviously hope people won't unsubscribe, but it's going to really feature in our elections closer, in our messages closer to the election. And then finally, a big ask, and that's a big ask of all members of Democrats abroad, the ones who are active and the ones who are not so active, which is to bring friends and family with you. We need all hands on deck when it comes to outreach and communications. We need everyone to engage Americans that you know in Portugal. Talk to Americans in your social circles, your hiking groups, your book clubs, your kids' school community, your professional networks. Invite them to Democrats Abroad events, help them register on votefromabroad.org, link them up with Democrats Abroad, but it really takes one-to-one communication. And obviously remind them to return their ballots. And then there's everyone that we left behind. We all have friends and family in the US. They probably feel discouraged and traumatized and cynical. Maybe they skip the midterm elections. Maybe they only vote in presidential elections. But we want you to be the one who makes a compelling case for them to vote this year. And in the end, our most powerful communications channels is not emails or our digital platforms. It's our people. That said, and now the pitch for volunteering, strong editorial content and social media content and marketing content is all super important. We need campaigns, digital campaigns, to engage young professionals and influencers and other groups that we're missing from our membership. So we really do need more creative volunteers with communications, marketing, design, and social media skills. If that sounds interesting to anyone listening into the call, or people who have these skill sets, please come talk to me. And I'm going to close with a new little mantra, if you're into that sort of thing, and you can say it aloud with me. And that's register, request your ballot, return it, reach out to 5 friends, and repeat. So that wraps it up for me. And thank you. And I'll pass this back to Lynette. I'm going to have to run because there's still graduation events taking place. So I think Lynette will handle any communications related Q&A.
Thank you, Melissa. Thanks very much for taking time out of your evening. That was really informative. You're going to see that mantra a lot of places coming up. And I'm going to stop screen sharing now, and we are going to turn the gavel over to Eileen Kiley. Is my friend Eileen. We met in what, 2020, Eileen?
2020.
Yeah,
Such
back
an
when
easy year to run for office, wasn't it?
Oh, COVID. Yeah, it was something. It was something. It definitely was. And Eileen is now vice chair of the Democratic Party of Oregon and also vice chair in Deschutes County, if I'm correct. Is that
There's a
accurate?
story that'll come into the story.
Okay, good.
Okay.
It's good to see you. I haven't seen Eileen since we moved to Portugal, so it's good to see you, Eileen, and thank you and welcome.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I am currently volunteering on the Oregon coast for one of our state parks. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing a heavy sweater at the beach, you've obviously never been to the Oregon coast in the summer. You miss it, Lynette, don't you? That sunshine is driving you crazy, right?
It's just so terrible.
Anyway, so yes, my name is Eileen Kiley. I am the vice chair of the Democratic Party of Oregon, but the story I'm going to tell is the story of the Deschutes Democrats. And I'm so glad I get to follow Melissa, because Melissa, this is what you said in action. So I retired to Deschutes County in 2015 to fulfill my lifelong dream of being a ski instructor and travel. And then Trump got elected. And that's when I somehow got into politics. I've been a Democrat my whole life. I used to have the mantra of always voting for one Republican so that I wasn't voting straight ticket. Yeah, those days are over. But the story actually begins a couple of years before I moved to Oregon in 2013. One of our members, John Davidson, went to the Oregon Summit, which happens to be in my hometown, and heard a seminar on a new program for Oregon that's called the Neighborhood Leader Program. So that's when we really got started. John went to our county chair and said, "Hey, I think this would work for us." And the chair said, "Well, if you're willing to lead it, I'm willing to back you." And John was willing to lead it. So you must understand, we were blood red. I mean, not a little red, Republican top to bottom. And the very few Democrats who had managed to get elected were donating to Republican campaigns because it's like, hi, we're one big happy Bend. Bend is the largest city in Deschutes County. And, we support all of them. So it was really, there was sort of an old Bend aspect. And so the Democrats would actually support Republicans because they were all old Bend together. They'd, lived in Bend their entire lives. So the first race that we started was actually the Bend Park and Recreation Board. And one person stood up to run. And we started the Neighborhood Leader Program. So there were 35 volunteers in the city of Bend. And each of them were assigned 35 houses that were nothing but Democrats. It was totally Democratic house. And their job was to go talk to their neighbors and get them to vote. That's it. I mean, they would give them the information that here's the one Democrat who's running for us, right? But they didn't do a whole persuasive thing. It was really, hi, I'm your neighbor and I'm a Democrat. And inevitably, the response they would get is, oh my goodness, I thought I was the only Democrat on this street. At which point we could turn around and say, nope, that house is Democrat, that house is Democrat, that house is Democrat. Because people were afraid to say they were Democrats. That's how red this place was. So I should say how red the politics were. Not really a red town. This candidate went up against Charlie Miller of Miller Lumber. Doesn't get any more old Bend than that. One of the best known people in town, and beat him. So that became very exciting because there was no money. We didn't put any money in it. And it was up against the richest guy in town. But it was a low turnout election. And we got Democrats to vote for a Democrat. That was the only message that we had. So from there, those 35 wonderful new volunteers said, told their friends how wonderful it was. And the program started to grow. And it grew from there. It's not an overnight thing. And we mostly started by winning in small elections, low turnout elections. So from having one person on the park board, we flipped the park board. And then we managed, from two Democrats on the, one to two, because we got Barb elected. So we also then figured out, people would start, if we had more than one person running, then we'd split the vote and the Republican would win. So we did start an endorsement process in I want to say it was 2016 was the first time we had an endorsement process. And we did that specifically for the city council so that all of our neighborhood leaders were talking about a single Democrat. We never told anybody they had to get out. It's just that we put all of our information behind one person. That endorsement process was never like the officers saying, hi, this is who you're going to support. It was always the precinct committee people getting together and voting on it. And to become a precinct committee person, you either run for it and are elected on the May ballot of even years, or you can be appointed. People show up at a meeting and say, hey, I'd like to do this. And that's how I became a PCP. I was appointed first before I ran for election. And then in 2018, let's start with that. Because that was the first time I ran. I ran for a House seat in one of those seats where it's like, there is no freaking way. No Democrats ever gotten more than 30% in this district before. It's not going to happen. And at the same time, we had an incredibly dynamic woman running for Congressional District 2. Also, there's no freaking way a Democrat can win this district. It's one of the reddest congressional districts in the country. But she really fired people up. And we got a lot more volunteers out through that. And my campaign moved the needle 13 percentage points in the really red side of the district. So we started to give notice to other people that this would work. But we lost everything that election except for the mayor and two city council seats, which should have given us the majority on the Bend City Council. But the mayor's first action was to appoint a Republican to replace her city council seat because the builders and the realtors convinced her that this is how she was going to get her transportation package through. So, and I guess I buried the lead. The builders and the realtors and the Chamber of Commerce basically paid for who they wanted to be on the city council and in the legislature and all of that. We were really up against this money. So 2020 comes along and we've got momentum. People from Portland are finally starting to take a look at us and go, oh, so like things can be won there because we'd flipped the Park District at that point. It was 100% Democratic at that point. We started getting more Democrats elected over in the smaller areas. So in 2020, when I ran for the second time, I ran for the Senate. And it was the first time that I got help from the other side of the mountains. So I was in a targeted campaign against the Republican who had the best name recognition in the entire state. Again, didn't win, but one of our House seats went blue. And the other House seat did about the same as I did, but flipped my precinct. My precinct had been heavily Republican. So she was the first Democrat to win my precinct in a legislative race. So we're still moving, right? So then 2022 comes around. We've gotten the attention of the Democrats in Salem. So they give us a little love in redistricting. And the House seat that I ran for in 2018, the woman who ran in 2020 lost. She ran again in 2022 and won by 506 votes. And then in 2024, we not only flipped the Senate seat that I had run for previously, we won every single race we contested. Every single one. We did not have a Democrat running for sheriff, and that's why we didn't get one through for sheriff. But everything. And what's really important is, contrary to what everybody's telling you in the press, we gave Kamala a higher margin of victory in our county than we gave to Joe Biden in 2020. This was all done on relationship organizing. Every last bit of it. It's about finding our Democrats and helping them be brave enough to say, yeah, I'm a Democrat. Because I noticed when I was canvassing, and I don't know if you got this too, Lynette, I'd talk to somebody who was really favorable, and it's like, would you like a lawn sign? And it's like, if you can get somebody else on my street to do a lawn sign too, yes. But not unless you can get somebody else too. People need permission to be brave. And relationship organizing gives them that privilege because they don't feel alone anymore. So our last bastion, as Lynette probably pointed out, was the county commission. And this actually was a 3-election process. So 2 elections ago, we didn't do it, but we supported an initiative petition that was run mostly by the League of Women Voters to move our county commissioner from a partisan race, which meant there was a partisan primary in May and then a runoff in November, to a nonpartisan race. So everybody got to vote in May for who that would be. And our first race with that was 2 years ago, and we reelected our sole Democrat. Oh, yeah, because we elected him in 2020. We elected our sole Democrat with over 60% of the vote in May, because we turn out in low turnout elections. And and then that bill passed. And then 2 years later, another initiative petition went through to expand our county commission from 3 to 5. Because we're a large county now. We are one of the fastest growing counties in the country. And so we had a huge process this year. About 11 Democrats expressed interest in running for county commission. And you have to remember, when that Democrat that we managed to get elected in 2020, I know where I was, buying him drinks, getting him to agree to run for county commissioner. It's like we were begging people to run for county commissioner. And 11 people stepped up and said, I'd like to do it. It came down to 5 people went into our final endorsement process. We endorsed 4. And so 2 of them won in May. So we now officially have the majority of the council. And 2 more are going through to a runoff in November. So we've at least got the majority. We could completely flip it. We'll see what happens in November. But I want to point out, it's not a magic wand. It doesn't flip everything tomorrow. It's about building momentum. It's about helping people have the courage to do what's right. And that's really important in this time, is that we support each other to have the courage to do hard things. And in some cases, it's a really hard thing to say, I'm a Democrat. We know this. So I would like to open it up for questions at this time, because I always find I learn as much as I teach in these situations. And, one of the things Martha and I have been talking about is, how do we help our overseas voters get involved in local elections? Because those are very important in building this momentum. And it's hard to stay up to date with it. I mean, when I voted overseas, I just voted for, the federal races, because I didn't know what was going on in the state. And those are, those undervotes hurt us. We want to actually, the point of our neighborhood leader program is to train our Democrats to vote in every election, no matter how small, and vote all the way down the ballot. And we help them do that. We let them know who the Democrats are. So do we have any questions?
Eileen, I wonder if we can save all the questions for the end, and we'll get through John's presentation, and then I'd like to come back to the 506 vote concept there. That I think I know who that was, and it was Emerson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's an amazing rep.
She is an amazing rep. I agree. I think Oregon did right by, or other Oregonians by electing her. So, John, I'm going to share my screen again and pull up your presentation.
Thank you. Uh, Hi, everybody. My name is John Goodman. I'm one of the coordinators with the Braga Hub for Democrats Abroad. I'd like to thank everybody for coming this evening. And I know that everybody has busy lives. I won't keep you long. I know there's a game on, so I have 8 slides.
Let's start at the beginning. There we go.
Yeah, right there. So you can go to the next slide. About a little bit about Braga. It's the third largest city in Portugal, located in the far north. We're about 35 miles northeast of Porto. Have a population of about 200,000, and our main attraction is the Bom Jesus do Monte Church. There's a picture of it right there. It's like 90% of the pictures of Braga are this church. It's a beautiful building. I highly encourage anyone to visit it. Go to the next slide, please. Here's our voter registration opportunity. You can see the number of Democrats Abroad members that we have. Those registered to vote through VFA and the percentage, and the percentage is pretty high. And since we're new here, we don't really know how this happened. It could be that the people from our Porto hub helped to make this happen, and maybe it happened organically. There's some talk about people living in a working class community like Braga maybe be more inclined to vote. We really don't know, but if any case, if you helped to make this happen, we'd love to know you and know how you did it. And of course, these numbers, we want to make them improve as well. The next slide, please. So what's the Braga Hub doing? We had our first meeting in March and drew 23 people, which was very surprising to us. In April, we had a second meeting and 4 people stepped up to volunteer to help coordinate it. That's Karen, Stephanie, Carrie, and myself. In May, we had our first coordinators meeting. We tried to focus on, number one, what kind of structure did we want our group to have? I mean, did we want to have elected officers and follow Robert's Rules of Order? Or, just be a loosey-goosey group and let people self-assign their tasks. And then we tried to figure out whether we wanted to do social activities, get out the vote, and finally we talked about how we wanted to get started. So go to the next slide, please. So what did we decide? We decided to be an unstructured group with a scribe, and I am scribe for now. We decided to focus on get out the vote. Many ideas are good ideas, but we're looking at everything through the lens of, will it help us to get out the vote? And if it won't, we're not going to expend our energy on it. And then there's the concept of mission creep. We want to avoid mission creep. So we've decided that we don't need to be the premier expat group on the Iberian Peninsula, providing all kinds of entertainment and services to people that they can get elsewhere. We're just going to stay in our lane and help people register to vote, and then help them to turn in their ballots when the time comes. And finally, we planned our first event, and we had it 3 days ago. Woohoo! And I'll talk a little bit about what happened there. Next slide, please. So how did we prepare for our voter registration event? The first thing we did was Karen and I decided to attend the May voter registration event in Ville du Conde because we wanted to see how other people did it. And we got to watch several experienced voter registrars in action, and they couldn't have been more helpful to us. And then a couple of us took the classes, and we passed the test. Woohoo! It's a little complicated, but it was very interesting. So a week before the event, the 4 of us got together at my house and spent an hour or so doing a dry run in the Sandbox, the Vote From Abroad test site called sandbox.votefromabroad.org. This is a marvelous tool for practicing helping people to register to vote. It also has lots of information about the nuances peculiar to each state around voting in local elections, how to return ballots, etc. And boy, did we learn some stuff. I mean, Virginia and New York, WTF. Why is it that these blue states make it so hard to register to vote, by mail, and places like Alabama make it so easy? Just saying. Anyway, so we learned a lot. We wanted to thank Stephanie and Carrie for coordinating the venue and making sure we had a printer that worked. The printer is very important because there's some states that you have to print out the Vote From Abroad form and they have to sign it right there and you have to scan it back in. So we were able to do that. We paid for some nibbles. The people who came paid for their own drinks, and it was a low-key event. So, next slide, please. So, what happened? We planned it for June 20th, which is right in the middle of our São João celebration. It's the biggest event of the year here in Braga. You will notice the plastic hammer during São João in Braga. People hit each other over the head with these plastic hammers. It's a sign of affection. And they do the same thing in Porto. You people in Porto know what I'm talking about. So anyway, we gave out hammers to everybody who came. And I'd like to give a shout out to Karen for getting cool hammers that whistle and squeak. You got whistle and squeak. And yeah, we got so what do we do? We sent out Dems Abroad came up with the flyer. Thank you, Lynette. And they also sent out 3 emails over a couple of weeks to animate people to come to our event. Karen and Stephanie sent out some about 4 different pushes to their social networks. And we got 11 RSVPs. And not a particularly big number, I don't think, but we want to make it go up, you know. We're new to this and we'll just try to do things better every time. And by the way, 14 people actually did show up. So that's not a very big number either. And we want to make that one go up too. And yeah, we registered 7 people to vote. We basically just had the voters go to votefromabroad.com, votefromabroad.org on their phone and register themselves. And we talked them through it. And we tried to send them away. This is very important. We tried to send them away with the idea that this was something that they could do, and they could not only do it for themselves, but they could also go out and help other people to register as well. Because that's what we hope to do. We want to not just be us at these our events. We want everybody out there registering people to vote. Go to the next slide, and this is the last one. So what's up next for the Braga Hub? We're going to have a social event in July, maybe bowling because it's inside. And we're going to just try and have some fun. Of course, we will have a voter registration table and ask everyone if they're registered to vote. In June, there's not a lot of people thinking about registering to vote, but by September, we're expecting a whole lot of people to have interest. And so we're going to have another event, probably more than one, in mid-September. One certainly to help people register to vote and hopefully get a really good turnout there. And then we'll have ballot return parties. Where people can bring all their stuff and we can help them fill out their ballots. And, these things can be complicated, and having another set of eyes on the process can be very reassuring to somebody who's not sure what they're doing. I'd just like to leave you with some final thoughts, and I might be preaching to the choir here, but voter registration, it's a journey. It's not a destination. It's a game of 1s and 2s. You meet somebody new, somehow registering to vote comes up in the conversation and you help to register them. If you do have an event and you only register 3 people, don't be discouraged and think it wasn't worth it. It definitely was, because each time that we register somebody or somebody else registers somebody, the numbers add up. This is how we contribute to the ground game for the United States from abroad. There's a reason why Viktor Orban in Hungary gave up power peacefully after the elections this year after he lost. And that was because of the overwhelming numbers of people who voted against him. He couldn't get any traction from claiming that the election was rigged, with 2/3 of the parliament now in the hands of the opposition. And this is exactly what we need to accomplish in the US elections over the next few years. We've got to not just win, we need to win big. We need everybody's vote. The Republicans need to lose by overwhelming margins so that we can prove once and for all that the American people really do reject corruption and fascism. And the way to get there is to do the work day in and day out, registering 1 and 2 people at a time, everybody working together. So I encourage all of you who haven't already done so to go play in the sandbox, sandbox.votefromabroad.org, take the training classes, get competent, and then go help somebody register to vote. That's the end of my presentation. I thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, John. I've been hearing John's name since 2024, and John is probably the most active participant that we've got, volunteer that we've got in Braga, and maybe all in the north of Portugal. So, John, I appreciate you a whole lot, and thank you for sharing your experience here. So, if if anybody has any questions now, if you want to pop them into the chat, or if we have any questions that have been put into the chat. I haven't been following the chat. Apparently, there's a soccer game going on. Who knew? Anybody have any questions? You can type it into the chat. This is a rare opportunity to talk with Eileen about the. You can raise your hand and we'll call on you too. You can unmute yourself. If anybody has a question, just go ahead and unmute yourself.
I do.
Okay, here we go.
This is Elizabeth. I lead the hub in Steuble, south of Lisbon. And we've just had one event, though we do have a pretty lively chat. But one of the challenges that we had was figuring out, unlike Bend, Oregon, we don't know the households that are Democrat here in Portugal. And as I recall, working with Derek, we weren't even able to say that we knew who was registered with Democrats abroad in our area. And I'm just wondering what ideas we might have other than our social networks, which of course we're working to be able to identify people in sort of the way that they did with Bend, because I think that's a really powerful story. And I'm just interested in like what tools might we have that I don't know about, or that others are using, or that we could develop to be more comprehensive about our knowledge about Democrats in our areas. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Elizabeth. I could probably address that. I think the tools that you may not know about, what you're talking about is really the crux of the difficulty of outreach here in the EU, because we have EU privacy laws that restrict. We can't buy lists and do a lot of things. We don't have a large voter database that shows us who the Democrats are, regardless of whether they're members of Democrats Abroad or not, which is why it's important to get people to sign up as members of Democrats Abroad, just so we are building our data, basically, and that we have the ability to reach them. So it is a consistent problem, and the answer to the problem, I think, more than it's really about what John was talking about and what Eileen was talking about and what Melissa was talking about, which is building relationships. It's relational networking, and for us, I think the other thing that we can throw in there is finding out where the Americans are at, right? So in a lot of cases, we can reach, say, students through foreign exchange programs. As schooling abroad goes, Portugal does not see. I mean, we're very much on the low end of that, and we only see about 15 or 1,600 students. So it's not a big, and of those, we have no idea how many would be Democrats. But we kind of have to walk blindly into a group of Americans and say, "Hey, we're Democrats. Does anybody want to talk to us?" Or rather, who wants to talk to us? Because we have a lot of things we can tell you. And so it is a different approach. We're looking at and should be launching, if we can get some volunteers to help us kind of translate the information from our hubs to the Meetup platform. We're looking at a Meetup membership that will enable us to get a broader advertising. Right now, we can't even advertise on social media because EU disallowed that for political reasons or for political advertisements as of last year. So our hands are tied there too. So there's a lot of difficulty, but it just means we have to get more creative. And that's where I think we are looking at some kind of um, creative groups to enter into where not everybody is going to be a Democrat, but we're going to walk in there and talk to them anyway, because the truth be told, we don't need just Democrats. We need everyone to vote for Democrats in this election. And so, and then the second piece of that, I think Melissa touched on a little bit, which was doing some things with events and with our communications that are speaking a little bit more to the digital nomad population, so the young professionals that are mostly in Lisbon and Porto. But does that help?
It does. I'm afraid that's the answer that I thought you were going to give.
Yeah, I mean,
So I loved it.
it's
I love the
unfortunate.
meetup idea. But yeah, I started out my political work with the AFL-CIO Committee on Political Action, and we had lists and lists and lists, and you know that story. So it's I mean, there are problems with that too. Lots of dead lists, but yeah, well, we'll just keep getting out there and networking. Our area is definitely growing with Americans, like at a fever clip. So I don't know, maybe a welcome wagon kind of idea might be useful. Like, here's your kid. Welcome to Steuble, by the way. If you're a Democrat, I got an organization for you. Something like
That's a
that.
great idea.
The easiest way to identify our voters in this election is to find out how a person feels about Trump.
Well, that's to be honest, I'm around a lot of English speakers who hate him as much as we do or despise him as much as we do, but they're not Americans and they can't vote. But I had one good friend of mine who's Portuguese say, "Look, he's now everybody's president, and it's a disgrace. Like we're so angry, not at you, but we're just so angry that he gets to involve our lives as much as yours." So anyway, yeah. But yes, I hear what you're saying.
It is, yeah, when you find an American, if you can make a joke about the reflecting pool and see how they react to it, that's going to tell you whether or not you got our voter.
And there are a
Between
couple of
that
memes out there. Yeah.
and a good litmus test. Does anybody else have any questions?
Well, Nat, there's some questions in the chat. The first one is, will there be a social media template to use that includes kinks of each platform?
That had to be from Nate.
Yep, it's from Nate.
Okay. Hey, Nate, I'm not sure exactly what you talk about. What were you talking about? Can you specify?
Oh, excuse me. Yes, each platform has its own separate character limits. The way the width and the height of the photos, how many hashtags you can have. Each one's completely different. And if you violate any one of those,
So do me a favor, Nate. I'm guessing, just because I know you and your history, I'm guessing you have those at your fingertips.
yeah, let me see if I can find it. It's an MS Word file. If I can find it and put it in the chat, I will. Stay
Okay.
tuned for a few minutes, okay?
Yeah, great. And you and I should talk too.
I'm here, not going
Okay.
anywhere.
I didn't figure you would be.
All right, Lynette, we've got another question from Melissa. Are we able to send our ballots through CTT given the existing restrictions? VA requires mailing the ballot. Or Virginia, I guess.
That's a really great question. So during the primaries, we tested a couple of CTT offices and found most of them to be very reliable. We had one report of a kind of a satellite CTT office that said, "Oh, mail to America, we can't send that." I think it's a lot less confusing now than it was during when the tariffs were first announced. But we will do a check before ballots get dropped, for sure, before we start doing the the having the possibility to mail our ballots back, which is in mid to late September. So before that, we will make sure that we are checking both with CTT that we have a good flow of mail leaving Portugal and going to the States. Usually it should not be a problem if it is election documents or any documents, but it should not be a problem, but we'll make sure of that. And then I want to make sure that we've got a nice stable DHL and other courier service that we can access for our voters as well. So we'll make sure that all of that is researched and in place before that ballot returns start happening.
Thanks, Lynette. There was a comment from Abby about not putting questions in. Abby, do you want to take yourself off mute and just go ahead and ask your question if you have one?
Sure. Hi. I'm not sure if this is a question or not. As a Washington State voter, I don't have to re-register. I'm so lucky. I'm so grateful. So for myself personally, I can't amp up those VFA statistics to register if you vote from abroad. I am looking at the materials to help other voters though, and I'm really glad that you get that training and how complicated is it in some states, and that's so key right now, isn't it? I guess I could ask the group. I'm sorry, I don't have a good question. I'm sorry. I thought I had one, and now it's gone.
Hey,
Well,
Abby, where are you calling in from?
From Tavira.
Oh, great.
We love it down
Can
here.
I- I would like to speak to your Washington State. So the same thing is true in Oregon, that I don't have to register every year. Some states want you to register every even year. Some states want you to register every year. Most states fall into that category. And rather than looking at that complicated mix, what we're telling people is whether you think you're supposed to or not, do it every year. And I do it every year on January 6th because I will never forget that date. So every year I am turning in my vote from abroad. It's essentially a glorified request for an absentee ballot. And if I already have one that is in effect and I turn in a second one on top of that, nothing happens.
Okay.
It's no big deal. There's no penalty, there's no consequence. The most severe consequence I would get is my elections official would say, "Thank you, Lynette. We've already got you. You're good."
Yeah.
So there's nothing bad that happens if you do a second one, even when your first one is still good, because it is such a complicated process and it's good. We're calling it voter hygiene, but I think that that's a weird term for it. It's it is I think we've introduced another wrinkle too, and this happened to somebody from Georgia where he did not have to register every year. He did it anyway, and he found that he was purged from the voter rolls
Because of trying.
So, no,
So
not because of trying, because
that's
he
how he
wouldn't have
learned
found
he'd
that
been
out had he
purged.
not turned in a new.
Right, I've thought about that a lot
The
for
trying
people from.
that won't happen to you.
Yeah, good. I guess I have
So
one question.
that is yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
No, I just thought of one thing with Democrats abroad. Is there a focus to? Is there any news about anything brewing to try again to cut off voting from abroad, other than the mail issue?
The mail issue is the biggest one. I mean,
For
it's
all of us.
yeah, it's the dumpster fire du jour. And we have to address it. Just today, a DA Take Action came out on that. I'm not sure if everybody here on this call is registered for the DA Take Action emails.
I did see that.
If you're not, go to the Global DA and there's a Take Action link and you can get those emails and it'll give you a script and it'll tell you, here's who you need to contact. Right now, we're contacting the post office. So that's the one that's on fire. That's the one that we're addressing now. Beyond that, there's nothing, I think, clear on the horizon, but it could pop up at any moment. These people are really, really trying to prevent people from voting, or
Yes.
Democrats from voting,
Yeah.
or people
Thank
who would
you.
vote Democrat.
Thank you for doing this tonight, and thank you to
You're
everyone who spoke. It was inspiring,
welcome, Abby.
especially hearing about Bend. I love Bend
Oh, good,
as
good,
a
good.
Northwesterner. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, but Bend is pretty amazing.
And Lynette, it looks like that's there are no more questions in the chat. I do want to remind people of there are a lot of links to things that we discussed. And also Nate put in there the information about the social media posting. So those are in there as well.
Thank you, Nate. I'll get in touch with you. I thank you all so much for being here. These are not easy times. It's not easy to stay paying attention when we're being barraged in the way that we do. Eileen, you have our deepest sympathies for having to withstand all this stuff, kind of every day in your face. We at least have we aren't wearing sweaters at the beach, at least. So, but I
Thank
really
you.
do. I appreciate everybody being here, Ellie, and thank you for taking the time to come and talk with us today. And it was very good to see you. All right,
Thank you
everybody.
all.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone. Thanks,
Thanks,
Lynette.
Derek.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks,
night.
everybody. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.